flooding, traffic, infrastructure, development. Those are all issues that Maurice Washington wants to tackle if he's elected mayor of the city of Charleston. I sit down exclusively with Maurice for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Maurice Washington, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always good to be with you, my friend.
Thank you greatly.
Doing well?
Well, I'm busy as always, tired, but I'm all right.
I know that's right. But come on, you got to keep it going.
Yes. Oh yeah.
No worries.
Of course.
We need you out here.
Oh yes. I'm gonna make that happen. Of course.
Good.
I'll go run up 3 miles. I'll be okay.
Oh man, I have to get in a couple more miles. So slacking up since the campaign, but I'll be back at it soon.
Be back at it soon.
Really soon.
Really soon.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the campaign. What is it like to be Maurice Washington?
Hey man, just normal guy. You know, guy who loves his city, love his family, love his church, and love the people of this city. It's been busy, but good busy, and I'm fingers crossed that the busyness will pay off. Either way, we're going to still work to improve our community, this place we love so much.
As a matter of fact, you said on your Facebook page this quote, "I care about tackling issues for the people of Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
Traffic is a huge issue, and it will only get worse unless we come out with out-of-the-box thinking and solutions.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll do as your next mayor of Charleston." You said this: sync traffic signal timing to go with the flow of traffic. What are you talking about exactly? Cycle lengths, yield points, splits, offsets, and early return to green?
Well, no, it's when we synchronize traffic light to match up or align with traffic flow. We're just talking about the length of the green, the length of the red. Basically, it's determined by what the traffic congestion at that particular intersection or highway. So synchronizing traffic signals with traffic flow is very important. To do that, we need traffic engineers. Right now, we have less than what we need to effectively do it. We also have to work with the DOT because these are, for the most part, South Carolina Department of Transportation or state roads and highways.
Right.
But it's just a matter of communication. We can get it done, working with our local law legislators and the DOT. They have representatives in each of the congressional district.
Sure.
And these folks are willing to help, and the service is quick if the communication chain are there to ensure that those communication linkages are in fact adhered to.
How many traffic engineers does the city of Charleston need now?
I can't say specifically the amount and the number that we need. That's a budgeting question, number one. However, number two, once we get the sequence in order, where the choke points are, you budget according to those choke points and congestion points. And it may not happen overnight in terms of bringing everyone that you need on board at once. But if we plan it out well, if we budget well, we'll get to that magic number.
How many choke points are there right now?
Lots of them. Too many to count. I mean, literally almost everywhere you go, particularly on the West Ashley side, on the James Island and Johns Island, and then you have Cainhoy and Daniel Island, the Bees Ferry Road area, and Clements Ferry Road area. I mean, you have so many. I-526, I-26, 17 South, 17 North, it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, how would Maurice Washington as mayor communicate with the South Carolina Department of Transportation to sync traffic lights?
Well, not only to sync traffic lights, but also they own a considerable amount of ditches
Right.
and roads
Sure.
and streets.
Right.
So we got to get streets paved, take care of the potholes, right? We got to get the curb appeal looking right. So we need regular scheduled maintenance, cutting the grass, cleaning the ditches, synchronizing the lights and everything else. So it has to be a total partnership through effective communication, and that requires working more effectively with our local lawmakers and having some scheduled time, sit down time with them to get those things hammered out and worked out.
Now, that curb appeal, what exactly are you talking about there?
Oh man, curb appeal is all about making sure we have nice sidewalks. We have beautifully paved roads, free of potholes.
Okay.
We got to have the grass cut, a little flower bed here and there, particularly with entrances in and out of the city entrance and exit points.
Right.
So overall, well maintenance, ground maintenance, is what I consider to be curb appeal.
You also said this too. Speed up road projects. How many road projects are there in the city of Charleston?
Dozens, actually. We have. I'll give you an example. There is one thing we can do right now to deal with some traffic choke points is the flyover at Main and US 17. It's approved, the money funded through half-cent sales tax funds. The northern pitchfork at Maybank and River Road, approved since and funded since 2013. But we haven't been able to start the process of the construction of these vitally important projects that would help eliminate, but at least relieve a lot of the traffic congestion on the Johns Island, West Ashley side. So why haven't these projects gotten underway yet is a little bit beyond me, but as mayor, I certainly would be at the table with the people that can help move the process forward every day if I have to. But we got to get these projects underway. We got to bring about some traffic relief, and we got to do it sooner rather than later.
You also said this too. Stop overdevelopment and instead focus on smart development. What's overdevelopment versus smart development?
Well, overdevelopment is when you have so much development and you're not considering the ability of your infrastructure to support it.
Okay.
And as a consequence of that, we have development driving planning and zoning rather than planning and zoning driving development. Too much development exacerbate current flood conditions, making it more difficult to mitigate flood hazards. It makes no sense, for example, to tell citizens of this city, we're going to charge you, well, it's going to cost you, your pocketbook, your household, $2 billion to deal with flood mitigation. While at the same time, we're approving every development that comes across planning and zoning. Without regards to infrastructure, some of these development are fill and build, which is not good. It obviously exacerbates flooding. A lot of it is filling in of wetlands, which choke off nature's natural water flow. That's not good either. So we got to get the zoning piece right and tight to ensure that future development does not involve the filling in of wetlands, the fill and build a material that does not absorb water, but instead push it out and flood surrounding areas. So effective zoning ordinances would, I think, adequately deal with that, and I plan to deal with it and hold the line on the laws that we pass to govern the development process.
Now, the recent proposed fill and build plan, fill and build ordinance, is that legal in your mind?
Well, look, I know there's the question, and the mayor's position is that it's not legal.
Okay.
However, he voted for it. He argued the point that it's a bad ordinance put forth by Council Member Harry Griffin, and he argued strongly against it. But at the end of the day, when the vote came, he voted for it. So if it's illegal, why vote for it? I think it's local rule, home rule. I think that's the decision. And even if there are some questionable legality around this whole thing, I think we can make the case to work through those and make the law and the ordinance as passed first read by City Council stand.
Right. And you also said this too, and you talked about it earlier, preserve our wetlands. How many wetlands have been affected by development in this city?
Well, let's put it this way. A lot of Charleston Peninsula City is filled in, wetland filled in. The Church Creek, West Ashley, was literally a wetland filled in. And you know what happened there recently? Government buyout. Too many floods, too much cost to the federal government to the point where it took the position, you know what? Not another one. Let's just move these folks out of harm's way. We have over 100,000 buildings in Charleston City, Charleston County right now, located in a FEMA floodplain. So that's a lot of buildings, a lot of people, and we might have to look to the national model where they are focusing on how do we move people out of harm's way that are already in harm's way, while at the same time prevent new development, such development in FEMA floodplain, putting new people in harm's way. So they created a buyback program, and they've spent tens of millions of dollars buying at market rate value properties from people, converting those spaces to passive parks and green space, and to allow nature and natural filtration to deal with stormwater runoff, as well as potential tidal flooding. We might need to look to that model in the future.
Speaking of which, you said this too. Plant trees and absorbent plants to reduce runoff. How many trees do you want to plant, and how much will it actually cost the average taxpayer in the city of Charleston?
Yeah, well, tree planting is the funny thing about that. You can get everyone involved in adopting a tree planting program. My neighborhood, Wagner Terrace, Hampton Terrace, and other neighborhoods in Peninsula City and outside of Peninsula City, Charleston, have adopted in partnership with the city. We'll buy the trees, but you plant them. We'll even water the plant during those critical weeks, so the roots catch and everything else. So the beauty of a tree planting program, you could bring corporate donations and partnership. You could bring what do you call them? Nonprofit partnerships, neighborhood association group, as we are doing and have done also here in Wagner Terrace. So the cost can be spread, so the impact isn't all to the taxpayers. That's one. Number two, there's an ambitious goal by a conservation group. Can't remember the name of them just now, but they have a 10-year plan to plant 10,000 trees. That's very ambitious, but of course, if the right partners come together, it's potentially doable. The good news is the number is high, the amount of time is compressed, so even if you fall short, you may not hit 10, but you may hit 7. And having 7,000 trees in the ground that weren't there prior to the campaign is still a pretty darn good thing.
Where's your plan? Your comprehensive plan?
On that front, on the tree plan, look, I think that's the way to go. I think you bring private sector, public sector, community folks, all who are willing to donate and contribute to offset costs. That's a heck of a plan. Why reinvent the wheel when you have something that's on the table that may very well be a good approach going forward?
Yeah. Let me turn to parking. You said we all know how frustrating it can be when you're trying to find a parking space downtown. As your next mayor of Charleston, you said, I will roll back parking meter fees downtown. How much money will the city actually lose by doing that?
You know what? It's two things here.
Okay.
How much money did the city actually gain by moving parking ticketing from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, right? How much additional revenue have we gained? Not only that, you get 8 minutes for every quarter that you put in. Once upon a time, you got 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour, right? How much do we lose by businesses, the impact of downtown businesses, people who contribute greatly to the ambiance of this city? How much are they losing as a result of ticketing people from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the impact on local moms and pops and business in the entertainment industry downtown? Secondly, how much money are folks who are already financially strapped, working for barely above minimum wage and taking half of their weekly, bi-weekly salaries feeding meters, and or having to pay some of that salary for ticketing charges and things of that nature. So we can't always think about revenue and profit to the city. I think that's a component. We have to look at that. But at the same time, we have to consider and should look at very seriously the impact on local businesses and local residents as a result of policies that and ordinances that we put in place.
Now,
So I'm going to roll it back. I'm going to roll it back from the 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that's one of the first things I'm going to look at doing. I'm going to be very responsible as we do it. We might have to curtail some things in other areas to make it right.
such as?
Well, I don't know. It may very well be we have to pull more from, give less to the hospitality industry, and put more back into other kinds of city services, police protection, street and sanitation services that we put in that particular area. I mean, I'm sure there are a multitude of different things we can take a look at where rolling back parking and ticketing from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wouldn't hurt the overall budget. It's $224 million budget, my friend.
Right.
$224 million in total budget.
Right.
And we have lots of enterprise programs right now that's doing very well, and parking just happens to be one of them. Do we need $30 to $31 million in revenues every year for parking? Do we? Or can we also provide the same services with less, say $27 million or $25 million a year?
Now, since the city actually expanded parking from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m.,
Mhm.
how many local businesses in your mind are actually losing business?
A lot of them. I mean, look, I frequent, for example, Saffron's.
Right.
The parking lot would always be filled when the ticketing was, one, reasonable. You know, you get more minutes for less money, and after 6 p.m., it's parked literally for free, right? So you feel comfortable as a citizen driving downtown, enjoying a nice dinner with your family, or even lunchtime, because you're going to get what, more bang for the quarter, right? And so the more people we could drive downtown, the more businesses benefit from the revenue. We have some great restaurants downtown and sandwich shops and everything else.
Sure.
Lots of us would rather just walk, bike, or drive downtown, enjoy a quick meal with our family and friends, and move on about our business, as opposed to, okay, you're sitting, you're trying to engage your family and your friends in business or conversation, but what's on your mind? Oh, I got to run out and feed the meter, or I have to run out and check on the meter. That's just crazy disruptive, and it's not necessary.
Yeah. Now, when you also think about that, everybody talks about public transportation.
Mhm.
Do you have an actual comprehensive plan for public transportation?
Let me tell you about public transportation. Look, we got to have a comprehensive plan. And when we allowed then South Carolina, now Dominion,
Right.
Out of the transportation business, and they passed it off to us for, I don't know, $12, $20 million to complete the construction of the South Carolina Aquarium. And we took on something as a public sector that the private sector was losing money at. It was a bad idea when we could have kept them in that arena, and we just collect our franchise fees and still partner with them to ensure we had the right kind of transportation system in place. We have Carter now, and they're struggling. They're trying to do a good job, and I'm not going to knock them. But as mayor, you don't have to be the jack of all trades. I think it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I hire the best traffic and transportation mind to head up the traffic and transportation division or department of the City of Charleston. Let's figure this thing out, but I got to bring in the best mind to advise me and others how to do it, working with Carter, working with Berkeley County, Dorchester County, Charleston County, because it has to be a regional kind of thing. You know, this is not a huge area, so we can't go it alone as a city, nor can we go it alone as a county. As a county, we have to pull together regionally to make this thing work. So one of my first obligation would be to just hire someone that has been there and done that and could bring that new type technology and engineering or ingenuity to our city to get this thing right once and for all.
Zoning, you said this, quote, zoning is vital to control overdevelopment. Zoning does three key things. It let us know what is at risk, what is at risk now. It lets us know what is safe to build. It lets us know where it is safe to build. Any areas now in the city of Charleston that are safe to build?
Well, there are lots of areas where it is safe to build, but the thing about my point in what you just read is simply this. For too long, we have been allowing development to drive our planning and zoning process. We develop before putting the proper infrastructure in place. We allow fill and build. We allow filling in of wetlands. We allow encroachment to too close to our inlands or barrier islands, the whole gambit. All I'm saying is this. Let's get our zoning ordinances right. Let's get the planning piece right, and then let that frame the future of where development and growth should go. So we have planned development, planned growth, which in turn we should be able to better manage.
How many building codes would you change or implement if you become mayor?
Well, who knows how many we currently have?
Do you
Now,
know?
we might have some that are dated. I don't know,
Okay.
but obviously some may in fact be obsolete, and we got to move them out. And because we have a growing population, we have we have more development now than we've ever had in the history of our particular region. So it requires an A to Z review of let's take in what it is that we have. What's good, what's working, what's obsolete. Let's move those out of the way. Let's bring the new thinking in mind via the new traffic engineers, the new urban designers, and the new not only urban designers but rural designers as well. Let's bring the right expertise to the table, and let's look at this thing and let's make sense out of it before we continue to allow more development, more unbridled growth, and to the point where we just cannot manage it effectively.
If you become mayor, how well would you communicate with your city council members?
Oh, look, that's crucial. That's the good news is I've sat in the council seat for 8 years,
Right.
under Joe Rowley,
Right.
from 91 to 99.
Right.
And I've served as chairman of a college board of trustees, and I've served as a trustee member, 12 years on the board, 6 years as chairman of the board. So I understand both perspectives, leading the board and just serving on the board as one of a board member. So board members like information early. They like clarity early. They don't like surprises. They represent a constituency. They want that to be considered and respected. And it's incumbent upon the mayor to ensure that he directly deals with his council colleagues on a personal and individual basis, not assigning staff members to council members, but personally taking time out to talk with them about the needs and the concerns of the district and the people that they represent, and try to find common grounds and common ways to work together to address major issues and not so major issues, but timely delivery of the information of the agenda for them to absorb and study and read and have some time to ask questions before the meeting, and allowing genuine participation, and sometimes moving council meetings from 80 Broad Street into their districts, where folks won't have to worry, getting back to parking, about coming downtown to participate in their government and coming out of council meeting with a ticket on their cars, because we're ticketing now from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's a turnoff. So we might have to move, not might have to, I certainly will. I will rotate where we meet as a council. Sometimes James Allen, sometimes Johns Allen, sometimes West Ashley, sometimes Daniel Allen, and of course, yes, sometimes downtown 80 Broad Street.
When you look at parking in other cities, such as Charlotte and Columbia, what resembles Charleston in your mind?
On the parking side,
Yes, sir.
well, different technologies. Let's go to Miami, for example, where they use apps.
Yeah.
And those ugly meters are not lining their beautiful, charming, historic streets. No, it's you pay for everything through an app, and it's advanced. You know your time. You don't have to worry. You know what you paid for. Boom, you pull up, you park, you're good to go. I think we need to modernize this whole ticketing piece, and one of the cities that I would look to just to get a feel for what potentially can happen here is Miami, because it's fast technology. It's a new way of thinking. They don't have the meters all over the place. Those things are ugly, particularly in our beautiful historic district. It's not necessary. It's old technology. It's antiquated. There's a better way to do it. We need to find a better way. We need to implement it here.
On day one, what would Mayor Maurice Washington take out of the budget and put in the budget?
On day one, it's important that the next mayor be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So day one, there should be not 7 hours in the day for a mayor, but sometimes 14 hours. And within that, you have your morning, you have your midday, you have your evening. So you're doing multiple things during the day on day one. Day one, what I want to do, honestly, I want to meet early with my council members. I want to have a meeting with my council members, try to get us all on the same page as quickly as possible, because we have some real challenges ahead of us, and it ain't going to go nowhere if I don't have the support of the city council. So I understand that. I can come up with plans. I can direct staff and say, hey, here's the vision. This is what we want to do. But when we go to city council, and if they aren't on board, then we're at a stalemate. We cannot afford to be where we are now for the next 4 years, where you have council and the mayor they don't see eye to eye on a multitude of different things. So it's hard to advance the business of the people. So day one, I want to work to make sure that the council and the mayor's office are getting off on the right foot. Just, hey, let's come together. Let's put the citizens first. Let's work as a team, and that's a part of day one. Also, I want to understand where we are with all of our flood projects. At the same time, I want to know the quality of the staff responsible for implementation. Do we have certified floodplain managers? Do we have any engineers on board? Do we have scientists on board? Do we have hydrologists on board? These are key talent that we need to deal with this new sea level rise and tidal flooding and storm surge and every darn thing else going forward. So that too becomes very important, assessing the quality of the personnel to deal with the implementation of the things that we have to do to mitigate flooding appropriately, having council come on board to work with me as a member of the team, the whole city team, in advancing the interests of this city forward.
You talk about personnel, but do you have the money? Will you have the money?
Well, it's a $224 million budget, right? Obviously, you look and you base your decisions on your priorities, and you structure your budget according to what? Those priorities. I think $224 million budget, maybe even more by the time I take office, because every year that thing kind of increases a little bit here, a little bit there. I think we can make it work, 224.
Now, where will flooding be on your list?
Flooding would be up at the forefront. I mean, it's one of the greatest hazards that we face, and it impacts insurance rates on properties across this state, because insurance carriers are saying, look, you're on the coastline, either we will not underwrite you, or we're going to underwrite you at an absorbent amount of money. Sure, we can do the FEMA stuff and get those discount rates through the FEMA, but that's predicated on what? Having certified floodplain managers in place as well. That's why it's important to know the quality of the people who are responsible for resiliency effort, flood mitigation effort, and the implementation of all design work and mitigation work already designed out. It all comes back and impact negatively or positively the citizens of Charleston.
Now, what are the insurance rates in the city of Charleston right now?
Well, that depends on where you live. The uniqueness of your home, and how in close proximity do you live to low-lying areas or FEMA flood zones and everything else. But literally everywhere, particularly Peninsula City, Charleston, your insurance rates are literally it's painful. It's painful to you. So how do we mitigate that? I'm telling you, we got to have certified floodplain managers in place. We have to have a great resiliency plan in place. We got to make sure we do the data and provide the paperwork to FEMA in timely manner. We have to also show that we're doing what we can to move people out of harm's way, and particularly moving some of these buildings that are already in a FEMA floodplain. We got to have the ordinances for the setback requirements, the height requirements, the lower density requirements. A whole host of different things must come together here.
Now, you talked earlier about the budget when it comes to flooding, and you may have to increase it, I believe you said.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, will you have to raise taxes as well?
Look, it would be disingenuous for me or any of the mayoral candidates to say we're going to fix flooding. We're gonna fix it. I think a better term to use is we're gonna mitigate and manage effectively, because the cost to, I don't even know if there's a cost that can fix it. We're talking about $2 billion right now, but we're talking man against nature, right? I don't know if we can win against nature. I think what we can do, we can manage and mitigate flooding very effectively if we bring in some nature-based solution, if we work better with nature as opposed to against nature. What I mean by that, we currently approach flood mitigation through gray infrastructure. That's your drainage, that's your pump stations, that's your tunnels, and those kinds of things. Great, we need them, and there's a great fit for it. But to complement that, we need to equally invest relatively strongly on the green infrastructure. Now we're talking about pervious surfaces, right? We're talking about investing in urban green space and rural green space. We're talking about protecting wetlands, which are natural filters to tidal flooding, and we're having a lot of that lately. We're talking about doing a better job at protecting our barrier islands, which is a natural mitigator against storm surge to the inland. So we have to get serious about all of those things. I mean, just stiff arming Phil and Bill, because that hurts. But if we combine gray and green, a hybrid type approach, I think we save the taxpayers money. We do a better job at dealing with flood conditions going forward, and a greener community is always a healthier community.
Now, that green infrastructure, how much would that actually save a taxpayer?
The green infrastructure,
yes,
it all comes down to cost benefit analysis. We don't know, but I'll tell you this.
Okay.
Once you run the numbers, look at Chicago, for example. They spent almost $30 billion in gray infrastructure alone. And guess what? Chicago still floods like crazy. Philadelphia has taken a different approach. Philadelphia says, okay, we saw the mistakes you guys made. We're going to turn our city into a sponge city. So we'll do gray where appropriate, but in the meantime, we're all in on the green. All in on the green. And you know what? It's working out beautifully. So instead of inviting the Dutch back, we might want to go to Philadelphia and see what they're doing, and then Nashville also to see what they're doing with respect to their buyback program, taking people out of harm's way, as opposed to allowing people to do what? Or developers to continue to put people in harm's way.
Maurice Washington, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
All right.